What's up, everybody? It's Heidi Fang here, and I'm joined with Adam Hill, our NFL writer, and we're going to get into the 2022 futures for the Las Vegas Raiders. Adam, first, let's get into the futures on the AFC West. Who can win it outright? The Raiders are in long shots at this from what I've seen. Let's get into some of the numbers and talk about what that means for the Raiders as long shots in the AFC West.
Obviously, this is the most glamorous division in the NFL now. Everybody is talking about the AFC West, and I think it's wide open. So I think that's why the Raiders do offer some value in this AFC West. You've got the Chiefs and the Chargers, obviously, at very short numbers to win because they're, all the hype. They're so hyped going into the season. The Chiefs also up there in the top five. So there's all these elite teams in the division. The Raiders are clearly a top half of the league team at this point of the offseason in terms of most people's rankings, and yet they're fourth choice to win the division. They're also the biggest long shot in the division to win the AFC. So I think there is some value there because I think this division is going to come down to, a couple of injuries, a couple of maybe fluke calls or crazy plays at the end of games. And one or two wins like that is going to change the entire complexion of the division. I think the Raiders do offer a little bit more value. Maybe the Broncos do as well. But I actually think the Broncos might have a little bit tougher time adjusting with all their new faces, not only a new coaching staff like the Raiders have, but also a new quarterback. And even though he's very, very good and he's got good weapons, it might take some time to adjust. So I think there is a little bit of value potentially on the Raiders in this spot with the numbers that they have right now.
Another number I want to talk about is 8.5. That's where I'm seeing a lot of books set the Raiders win total at right now. Adam, how reasonable do you think it is that the Raiders win over 8.5 games, or are you leaning the other way with the under?
So if we're going to think there's value in them to win the division, we probably have to think there's some value in the over as well. But here's the thing. If you look at game by game, they're only favored in 6 games this season. And so I know some people might say, well, how are they only favored in 6 games out of 17, but the number's 8.5? Well, it just comes down to the percentages of how likely it is to win each game. And so many of their games, even if they're underdogs, they're only a 1 or a 2 point underdog in the game. So those are close to 50-50 propositions. That bumps that number up to 8.5. I will say this. One thing I've seen people say is, well, they won 10 games and made the playoffs last year, and they got better in the offseason. How are they only 8.5? Well, I think you have to take a step back and say, now they have a second place schedule. The schedule on paper is just brutal. So, I think that's where it comes into play a little bit, where they can be significantly better on the field and have a worse record. And I know that's hard for some people to kind of comprehend and understand, but you can take a step forward as a team and take a step back in the standings. And that's kind of how the NFL works with their, scheduling based on a couple different factors that include where you finish in the division. So that second place schedule for the Raiders could make things a little bit more difficult for them this year in terms of trying to win those 8.5 games.
When I've looked at the lines of the possibility of the Raiders winning either the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl, which they are obviously longer shots to win, what do you make of this number again? And how do the books kind of set this number in motion?
The AFC is loaded. We know that. And you can just look up and down the list of odds and see all the teams in the AFC that are closer to the top of those odds to win the Super Bowl. So the Raiders do face an uphill battle to try to win an AFC title and potentially win a Super Bowl. I don't know that I'm willing to go there just yet. I don't know that they have the roster to go and win the Super Bowl. But if you get through that AFC West, then you're certainly going to be a contender when the playoff comes around. So maybe you take a look at them to win the Super Bowl or win the AFC, whatever, find the best number. I think that would be the best recommendation. It's different everywhere for those that are new to betting, and go make that bet. And the way they come up with a lot of these numbers is, yes, it's their kind of ranking of who they think is most likely to win for sure. But also you're just trying to put numbers up there that are going to entice people to bet on every single team. You want action on every single team if you're a sports book. That way you don't overdo your liability to one team or another. Like, you don't want everybody coming in and betting on the same team, because if that team wins, then you're way in the red there for that season. You don't like that. So you're just trying to balance out the action. That's most of what sports books do. And so you're putting a number that's high enough for people to get interested in betting on it, but not too high that you're going to be devastated if they lose. And so you don't see those massive numbers anymore. You don't see any teams to win the Super Bowl at like 500 to 1 to 1,000 to 1, because they don't want to have that kind of exposure. But that's kind of what the sports books are dealing with when they're trying to set these numbers.
Some of the future bets include awards like the NFL AP MVP of the year. You have Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. Max Crosby right now being in the best position for the Raiders to win one of those awards when it comes to betting lines. If you had to put your money money on it, Adam, I'm going to lead with the three top names I'm seeing: Josh McDaniels, Max Crosby, and Derek Carr. Who do you think has the best probability of winning one of those awards?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Derek Carr like 30 to 1, 40 to 1 to potentially win MVP. That would be somewhat interesting because if you do like the Raiders to win the division, and if they come through this AFC West, he's going to get a lot of consideration. I don't think there's any question about it. And that means that they're going to be passing the ball a lot. They're going to be putting up big numbers. Certainly, Devontae Adams could have a shot, but you tend to look at quarterbacks for Player of the Year award. So that'd be worth doing if you think the Raiders are going to be significantly better than everybody else does. You think they're going to win this AFC West. Derek Carr is probably a pretty good bet to win the MVP in that case. So that's worth it. And then I also look. You mentioned Max Crosby for Defensive Player of the Year. I know he's a little bit lower on the board, but he does have something going in his favor this year, and that's hype. I mean, that is an important thing. You have to be pretty hype coming into a season in order to a lot of times finish in those award spots. And in Max Crosby coming off the year that he had, and all the not only the stats he had, but the underlying numbers of pressures and everything he was able to do, is now at the top of a lot of people's lists of kind of those breakout type players. And now he's there. He's arrived. And so he does have a chance, if he has a big season again, to be in that mix for Defensive Player of the Year. And again, if the Raiders have success on the field, that's going to help a lot of those individual awards as well. So if you believe in the Raiders, not only can you put the money on those future bets in terms of the AFC and the Super Bowl, but also you can take a shot that the individual players are going to get recognized for that success and take a shot at some of these long shot Player of the Year awards.
Lastly, Adam, if you're taking any action on one of these futures, which one is it and why?
So I would definitely be looking at some Devontae Adams props. I think there's no question that the Raiders are going to try to find ways to get him the ball. Derek Carr wanted him here. Devontae Adams has always talked about playing with Derek Carr again. They're college teammates, of course. They have that rapport on the field. So shop around again. Always, when you're talking about betting, find the best numbers. And in this case, if you can find any kind of Devontae Adams catch props, yards props, touchdowns are a little bit more fluky. I think if you look traditionally, it's hard to predict how many touchdowns a guy is going to get, but catches and yards are much more predictable. And I think if Devontae Adams stays healthy, they're going to give him the ball early and often in games. He's going to get a lot of work, and I think a lot of his props are going to go over.
That'll do it for our betting segment with Adam Hill. I'm Heidi Fang. Make sure to keep up with Dave Shane and Todd Dewey, our sports betting columnists who put out things regularly on any betting information you might be looking for in the Las Vegas area and beyond. And make sure to check out all that we're doing on vegasnation.com when you need to keep up with all things Raiders. For Adam Hill, I'm Heidi Fang. Thank you for watching.